We were on the way to the supermarket, chattering about the price of groceries when my phone rang. It was friend and fellow feline foster parent Melissa. She always talks fast, but this seemed a little different. She sounded upset. She told us there was a cat trapped in the drainage culvert under a busy road. Melissa was standing in the parking lot, flagging us down as we drove up. There was another woman hovering on her hands and knees next to the drainage culvert in the sidewalk, calling into the echoey blackness. It was dark enough outside that it had just started to cool off, and we could hear the cat's shrill cries careening up through the concrete to answer her. "Do you think she's hurt? Maybe she has kittens down there or something and can't get back up," Melissa asked me. I told her it sounded more like a kitten, and that a grown cat would have no trouble getting out of the drain. It was only a few feet down from the surface, and the meows were so tiny and frail, it had to be a kitten. A soaking wet, terrified kitten. Melissa lowered herself into the manhole and peered into the tunnel. "It's a kitten," she shouted up to us. "Just one?" I asked. She nodded. "Probably only a few weeks old." Animal control pulled up just as I was wondering how a tiny baby kitten managed to find its way into a very noisy and damp drainage ditch under a busy road. Who knows how long she'd been trapped in there. Now we just had to figure out how to get her out. Melissa decided to go in after the kitten. She laid down flat on her belly and inched her way into the stuffy, damp tunnel that was barely the width of her shoulders. I could hear her beckoning softly to the kitten, and the kitten screaming back for her to stay away. When she was about 20 feet into the tunnel, she decided it was useless. The kitten was staying just out of arm's reach. We were all a little dispirited, and we were completely out of ideas by the time the fire department showed up. 3 firemen strolled over to coolly assess the situation, and without hesitating, strapped on their helmets and gear and dropped into the manhole. When we were all in place, they turned the hose on. We heard the kitten yelp and slap her paws against the concrete, running for the other side to escape the gentle but steady flow of water that was headed her way. And we all breathed a sigh of relief when the man held his hand up out of the manhole with one angry, biting, clawing, ferocious kitten clasped in it. She couldn't have been more than 4 weeks old, a little skeleton of a kitten with luminous white fur. An oddity of oddities, she even had 7 little toes on each paw, each with its own claw and paw pad. It looked like she was wearing giant mittens on her tiny stick legs. Despite the muggy, hot night, she was shivering with cold and terror. You could see the fear in her giant, shiny green eyes. "We should call her Luna," the man who pulled her out of the culvert said, and so she had a name and a brand new life. We held her for a long time and talked and laughed, thankful that she was healthy and alive. When she ate that first night, she growled and hissed at no one in particular. She slept and screamed in turns the first few nights, and she ate viciously and relentlessly for what seemed like days. Her lean belly grew around her, and she started approaching us on her own. She would dig all 14 of her tiny little claws into our feet when she was hungry, which was constantly. She knew we were the bearers of food, and she was so hungry. And through that knowledge, she began to trust us. She loved lounging in the window in the warm shafts of sunlight, and she was so small and white that you could almost see through her. We watched her lying there sometimes and marveled that she was alive, watching the tiny slats of her ribs rising and falling above her growing belly. She was so young and frail when we found her, and it was amazing to watch her get bigger and stronger and braver. Now Luna is a charismatic, fearless little feline. You can barely tell she's the same cat. And that's the miracle that any foster home can accomplish. With just the smallest investment of time, effort, and love, anyone can make a huge difference in an animal's life. If all of those amazing people hadn't come together to rescue one sad, scared little cat, she wouldn't be alive right now. While none of us can change the world on our own, we can change the world for one animal anytime we want to. Luna's currently still in foster. She'll be available for adoption at Southern Pines Animal Shelter as soon as she's big enough for surgery. However, there are always animals at the shelter that need temporary foster homes. They might be too small, too sick, or too scared, but all they need is a little time and love. For them, it might be the difference between a lonely kennel and a happy home, or even between life and death.